Welcome back to Rapture Tales. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and get ready for another story you won't forget. Let's dive back to the story. Clara Edwards was a beautiful, dark-skinned young woman with soulful eyes and aura of quiet dignity. Growing up in South London, she had always held on to her mother's advice: your worth isn't measured by what you give, but what you preserve. Her decision to remain a virgin until marriage had cost her more relationships than she could count. Men mocked her, friends whispered behind her back, and society labeled her old-fashioned. Still, Clara stood firm. At 26, she worked as an interior designer, balancing grace with ambition. But deep inside, she yearned for love, the kind that saw her heart, not her body. Solomon Collins had one seem like that love. Charming, educated, and polished, he made her believe patience could coexist with passion. For 2 years, they built memories, morning coffees, soft laughter in Hyde Park, and shared dreams of marriage. Yet, beneath his smooth voice lay frustration and pride. He couldn't stand the idea of waiting any longer. That impatience was about to destroy everything Clara had built, including her peace. Their anniversary dinner began with candlelight and smiles. Clara wore a modest white dress that glowed against her ebony skin, unaware that the night would end in heartbreak. Solomon raised a toast, praising her beauty, but speaking with a tension she could feel. When they returned to his flat, he dropped his mask. The compliments became accusations that she was naive, childish, and holding him back. His voice cut deeper than any slap. When she resisted a sudden attempt to touch her, his anger exploded. "You're embarrassing me," he spat. "I'm a man, Clara, not a priest." Shaken, she grabbed her purse and fled into the London night, tears freezing on her cheeks. Her body trembled, but not from the cold, from the realization that the man she trusted saw her purity as a weakness. She wandered the streets until she found herself outside a bar, neon lights flickering like temptation. Her heart screamed for silence, for forgetfulness. "Just one drink," she whispered to herself. She had no idea that one drink would alter the rest of her life. Clara wasn't used to alcohol, but that night, she drowned her pain in glasses of wine that blurred her world into soft colors. The bartender tried to warn her, but she waved him off, laughing through tears. That's when he saw her, Alexander Alex Harrington, a tall, regal man with deep brown skin and eyes that carried quiet storms. Unknown to her, Alex was not just any man. He was the youngest sitting president of the United Kingdom, known for his charm, intellect, and mystery. He'd come to the bar that night to escape the weight of political meetings and lonely luxury. He noticed the sadness behind Clara's laughter. Something in her vulnerability disarmed him. When she stumbled while trying to leave, Alex caught her before she fell. Their eyes met, hazy, searching, unguarded. "You shouldn't be alone," he said softly. "Neither should you," she whispered back, slurring her words. He smiled, helping her to his car, intending only to make sure she was safe. But the night had plans neither of them expected. The penthouse at the top of Harrington Tower glowed with amber light. Alex guided her in gently, intending to let her rest, but her fragile smile and trembling voice stirred something inside him. "I'm tired of being perfect," Clara murmured. "Just for one night, I want to feel free." Her words, soaked in pain and courage, broke through his restraint. He hesitated, then kissed her. What began as comfort became a whirlwind of emotion. Neither knew where compassion ended and passion began. When dawn touched the skyline, Clara lay asleep in silk sheets, her dark curls framing her peaceful face. Alex stood by the window, torn between duty and confusion. He didn't even know her full name. His phone buzzed, a call from his sister, Sophie. "Alex, Father's had another stroke. You need to return to Monero immediately." His chest tightened. He scribbled a note on the bedside table. "You're safe. Forgive me." Then he left, unaware he had just shared his soul with the woman who would change his destiny. Clara woke to golden sunlight and a splitting headache. For a moment, she didn't remember where she was. The room was luxurious, unfamiliar, scented with expensive cologne. Panic surged as flashes of the night before surfaced, the laughter, the kiss, the touch. "Oh, God," she whispered, clutching the sheets. Her reflection in the mirror looked like a stranger's. Shame flooded her as she realized she had broken her own promise and couldn't even remember his name. On the nightstand lay a note. "You're safe. Forgive me." Tears blurred her eyes. She dressed quickly. Her heart pounded with guilt and confusion. Outside, the London air felt colder than usual. She wandered for hours, her mind replaying the night in fragments. She promised herself never to speak of it again. To everyone else, Clara Edwards remained a woman of principle. Only she knew the secret that would one day echo through palaces and power halls. Weeks turned into months, and Clara tried to bury her guilt beneath work. Naomi Lewis, her best friend, noticed a change, the long silences, the missed lunches, the pale smile. "You're not fine," Naomi said one morning, folding her arms. "You've been fading since that night you went drinking. Talk to me." But Clara couldn't. She couldn't even explain to herself how a night of pain turned into a forbidden memory she both regretted and missed. One morning, she fainted while setting up a client's interior project. At the hospital, the doctor's words shattered her composure. "Congratulations, you're pregnant." The world seemed to stop. Pregnant. But by whom? She hadn't been with anyone since that night. Panic seized her. How could she explain this to her parents, respected church leaders who still believed she was pure? That evening, she sat by the Thames, watching the river's quiet flow, realized that her life would never be the same again. When Clara told her parents, the silence that followed felt heavier than words. Her father's face turned stone cold. Her mother wept into her hands. "You've shamed us, Clara," her father said finally. "After all our prayers and trust." She tried to explain that she didn't even remember how it happened, but to them, it sounded like lies. They asked her to leave the house until she sorted herself out. The rejection cut deeper than Solomon's betrayal. Naomi took her in without hesitation. "Forget what they said." Naomi told her, "You're not dirty, you're human." Those words became Clara's anchor. As her belly grew, she worked part-time jobs, saving for the baby she hadn't planned but already loved. Yet every night, she lay awake, haunted by one question. Who was he? The stranger whose name she never knew, whose memory lingered like perfume in her soul. 9 months later, rain poured over London as Clara clutched her stomach, pain tearing through her body. Naomi rushed to get the car when headlights flashed suddenly, a sleek black vehicle swerving to avoid her. The driver jumped out, his face pale with shock. "Are you all right?" His deep voice froze her heart. It was him, the stranger, Alex Harrington. The same man from that night, older in expression, dressed in a dark suit, but unmistakable. Recognition dawned in his eyes, too. "It's you," he whispered, before helping her into his car. Her contractions worsened as they sped to St. Mary's Hospital. Hours later, she gave birth to a baby girl with his eyes and smile. Alex watched in the corner of the room, shaken. He paid every medical bill before disappearing again. When Clara woke, Naomi handed her an envelope, hospital receipts signed Alexander Harrington. The truth was beginning to unfold. A month later, Clara, clutching baby Ava, went to find him, using the address on the hospital paperwork. She arrived at a gated residence in Westminster. The guards almost turned her away until Alex himself appeared. He froze when he saw her, the woman he had searched for since that night. "You're here," he said softly. She stared at him with trembling fury. "You left me with this." Her voice cracked. "I didn't even know who you were." Alex's eyes softened as he stepped closer. "I never meant to hurt you. I looked for you everywhere." When she accused him of taking advantage, he stopped her gently. "You came to me broken. I should have stopped it, but I didn't because I felt something I can't explain." His confession disarmed her. He insisted on a DNA test, not out of doubt, but duty. The results came days later. Ava was his. And that truth would soon shake the nation. Alex invited her back to his residence, this time not as a stranger, but as the mother of his child. Cameras clicked outside, sensing scandal. Behind closed doors, he knelt. "Clara Edwards," he said, holding a ring. "I don't want this to be a headline. I want it to be a beginning. Marry me. Let our daughter grow knowing she was born from love, not shame." The word stunned her. A president proposing to her, the same man who once vanished without a word. Tears filled her eyes. Her instincts told her to run, but her heart whispered to stay. "You don't even know me," she said softly. "Then let me spend my life discovering you," he replied. Naomi's jaw dropped when Clara returned wearing the ring. The next morning, every major newspaper in London carried the headline, "President Alexander Harrington to wed civilian woman. Mystery baby confirmed. The story of the drunk virgin and the president had only just begun. The engagement announcement sent shockwaves through the country. Clara, once invisible in a crowd of Londoners, suddenly found her face on every newspaper and tabloid site. "Who is she?" the media screamed. Some painted her as a gold digger. Others called her the woman who tamed the president. Inside the Harrington estate, Alex faced intense pressure from the Parliament and his family. His sister, Sophie, was furious. "You barely know her, Alex. Think about the family name." He simply replied, "She's a mother, my child, and my heart." Clara, meanwhile, battled her own storm. The luxury of the palace felt like a golden cage. Guards followed her everywhere. Servants bowed too deeply, and cameras lurked in every shadow. She longed for peace, not publicity. When she overheard Sophie call her an accident polished into a princess, Clara broke down. Yet every time Alex held her hand and whispered, "You're my choice," the world outside faded. Still, deep inside her heart, a question lingered. Did he love her or the shadow of someone else? One afternoon, Clara passed by Alex's study and overheard him on a call. "Ari would have been proud of this," he said quietly, his tone soft and distant. The name froze her in place. Later that night, curiosity turned to anxiety. "Who's Ari?" she asked, her voice trembling. He hesitated, then confessed, "Ariella Benson, a woman he once loved deeply who had died 3 years earlier in a plane crash." "You remind me of her," he said. "The way you speak, the fire in your eyes. It's strange." Clara's heart shattered silently. The resemblance that had drawn him might also be the reason he couldn't let her go. "So I'm her ghost to you," she whispered, tears welling. Alex tried to hold her, but she pulled away. "I don't want to live in someone else's shadow." That night, she packed a suitcase and returned to Naomi's apartment, feeling like the walls of the palace had swallowed her soul. Naomi's words were sharp but true. If he can't love you for you, then even his crown won't be enough. Days turned into weeks, and silence filled the space between them. Then one evening, Alex appeared at Naomi's door, exhausted, unshaven, and humbled. "Clara, I've lost you once before. I won't lose you again." He took her hands, trembling. "Ariella was my past, but you, Clara, are everything I never knew I needed. You make me question, fight, and hope again." His voice cracked. "I didn't choose you because you looked like her. I chose you because I couldn't imagine a day without you." Naomi watched from the kitchen, teary-eyed. Clara wanted to believe him, but was terrified of repeating her pain. Then Alex reached into his coat pocket and handed her a letter, a draft of his resignation. "If my positions stand between us, I'll step down. I'd rather be a man with you than a president without you." The sincerity in his eyes broke her defenses. For the first time, she realized he wasn't speaking as a leader, but as a man in love. That night, she agreed to return, not as a scandal, but as his equal. The wedding was the event of the decade. Westminster Abbey glowed with golden chandeliers, the air humming with choirs and whispers. Royals, ministers, and dignitaries filled the pews, waiting to witness history, a president marrying a civilian. Clara walked down the aisle in an ivory gown, her ebony skin radiant under the cathedral lights, her eyes locked on Alex's. Every step symbolized defiance against judgment, class, and destiny. When the archbishop pronounced them husband and wife, the crowd erupted. Cameras flashed, bells rang, and outside, the people cheered for the love story that had defied scandal. Later that evening, in the quiet of their suite, Clara finally smiled freely. "For once," she said softly, "I'm not ashamed of how my story began." Alex kissed her forehead. "It doesn't matter how it began," he whispered. "What matters is that it brought me to you." Life as Mrs. Harrington was far from fairy tale peace. The palace buzzed with gossip and political manipulation. Some ministers questioned Clara's influence, calling her too ordinary. Sophie remained distant, pretending politeness in public, but suspicion in private. Clara tried to win her over by hosting charity events and launching an initiative for single mothers. Her empathy and elegance began winning hearts nationwide, but her vulnerability made her a target for tabloids hungry for scandal. One afternoon, an anonymous journalist emailed a story claiming Clara had once been a bar girl who trapped the president. The lies spread like wildfire. Social media exploded, dragging her past into public humiliation. Alex immediately ordered an investigation, furious. They will respect my wife, he vowed. But Clara wept alone that night, realizing that in the eyes of society, she would always be the outsider who didn't belong, no matter how pure her heart. Sophie Harrington decided it was time to see Clara's true colors. She invited her to a royal charity ball filled with elite figures, many of whom had openly ridiculed Clara's past. Sophie watched closely as whispers floated. "She's not even of our class." Clara, instead of retreating, approached the microphone. "You're right," she said boldly. "I'm not from your world. I'm from the one where people fight to survive. And if that disqualifies me from being loved, then maybe love means nothing to you." The room fell silent. Sophie's face softened, realizing for the first time that Clara wasn't weak. She was powerful. After the event, Sophie visited her privately. "I misjudged you," she admitted. "Ari was perfect, but you're real, and my brother needs real." From that moment, their relationship began to heal. For the first time, Clara felt accepted not just as Alex's wife, but as part of his world. Months later, Clara began noticing the pressures of motherhood mixed with public life. Baby Ava had grown into a bright, playful child who often appeared in headlines as the people's princess. Clara balanced media attention with her duties quietly, but exhaustion began to take a toll. Alex was often away handling international affairs, and loneliness returned to her palace walls. One night, she collapsed from stress, forcing Alex to cancel his trip and rush home. At her bedside, he held her hand, guilt washing over him. "You've carried more than any woman should," he said softly. She smiled weakly. "It's not your fault. Just promise me we'll live, not just survive." From that day, he reduced his public appearances, choosing instead to spend evenings reading bedtime stories to Ava and late nights cooking dinner with Clara. The world saw him as a powerful leader, but she saw the man who finally learned what love meant. Just as peace settled, an old ghost resurfaced. Solomon Collins, the ex-boyfriend who once mocked Clara, now reappeared, claiming he had intimate videos from their past. It was a lie, but the press believed it instantly. Clara's name was dragged again, her image tarnished. Alex confronted Solomon personally, his temper breaking through presidential restraint. "You'll regret this," he warned. "You already lost her. Don't lose your dignity, too." Eventually, the truth emerged. Solomon had forged the footage for money. He was arrested, and Clara's name was cleared. But the ordeal reminded her that fame was fragile, and peace was borrowed time. That night, Alex knelt beside her and said, "You faced everything the world threw at you, and still you shine." She smiled through tears. "Because I have you," she whispered. For the first time in years, her heart felt safe again. 3 years passed, and the Harringtons had built a life of warmth and love. On Christmas Eve at their countryside estate, Clara surprised Alex with a small box wrapped in gold ribbon. Inside was a positive pregnancy test. His eyes widened, joy lighting his face. "Twins?" he asked, speechless. She nodded, laughing through happy tears. The palace erupted in celebration, with Sophie crying louder than anyone. "2 more little Harringtons," she exclaimed. The birth months later was a national event. Clara gave birth to twin girls, Isla and Grace, with deep brown skin and curls just like hers. The family photo released to the press broke the internet. Headlines read, "From Scandal to Legacy, the Harrington Love Story." For once, no one spoke of the past, only of love, resilience, and rebirth. Years later, Clara often walked to the palace garden, watching her daughters chase butterflies while Ava ran ahead with their father. The same place that once felt like a cage had become a sanctuary of laughter and life. Her story, from heartbreak to grace, had inspired millions of women who once thought mistakes defined them. Clara now led a foundation supporting single mothers and girls from humble backgrounds, proving that every fall could lead to purpose. On their 10th anniversary, Alex held her close and whispered, "You changed the meaning of power for me. You taught me that love doesn't need perfection, it needs truth." She smiled, resting her head on his chest. "And you taught me that forgiveness is the real crown." The wind rustled the roses as the 3 little girls giggled in the background. The president and the once drunken girl had become a symbol of redemption, a love story written not in fairy tales, but in the language of grace, courage, and destiny. That's the end of the story. What did you learn about the story? Please leave a like and subscribe to our channel for more interesting stories. Thanks for watching.